What if I told you that the greatest feat of human survival went completely unnoticed by official history and lay forgotten for many years in the shadow of the famous names of the first explorers? We are accustomed to admiring the expeditions of great navigators, but the true unvarnished history is written not on maps, but in the exhausting footsteps of nameless heroes amid a merciless, blinding snowstorm. The winter of 1838 went down in history as a time of extreme, inhuman trials. On the banks of the ice-bound Cumberland River, the Cherokee people faced what we would today call certain death. Temperatures plunged to 20 degrees below zero, turning every movement into torture, while the harsh, merciless guards allowed the exhausted people to stop and rest for only 15 short minutes. In this icy hell, the line between life and death was finally erased. Official history did not record the name of this brave woman, but her journey was more than just a march forward. It was a battle for the future of an entire people. She made it, saving the lives of her loved ones against all laws of logic and biology. But how did she do it? What hidden reserves of the body and ancient secrets helped her cheat death? Be sure to watch this video all the way to the end, and you'll discover exactly what unyielding willpower and incredible tricks helped this heroine cross the endless icy wasteland when everyone else had already given up. We'll reveal details that will make you look at what a person is capable of for the sake of their family in a whole new light. You won't find such a deep dive into the story of the Road of Tears on any other channel. Let's get started. Are you ready to learn the truth about how the cold becomes the ultimate test of the human spirit? That winter, nature turned into a merciless force of nature, covering the endless plains with a thick layer of prickly, crystallized snow. The icy wind pierced right through the thick fabric of the woolen blankets, forcing the travelers to wrap their camping gear more tightly around themselves. Every step across the frozen ground required colossal effort, turning ordinary movement into a heavy, mechanical rhythm. An unnamed Cherokee woman walked at the front of the caravan, shielding her family from the piercing gusts of the north wind. The ground had turned into a solid sheet of rock, offering no hope of easy progress. Traditional leather moccasins slipped on the icy crust, forcing people to choose their footing carefully with every step. The air was so cold that every breath instantly turned into a thick white cloud of steam. The sky overhead remained gray and unwelcoming, letting not a single ray of the warming winter sun through. The monotony of the white landscape tired the eyes, merging the horizon with the snow-covered hills into a single endless line. Thin shawls offered little protection against the bone-chilling 20-degree frost. The travelers had to layer every piece of fabric they had, creating makeshift shields against the wind that never let up for a moment. They tucked their hands deep into the folds of their clothing, trying to conserve precious heat to keep their muscles working. A woman carefully adjusted the shawls on her family's shoulders, checking the security of each knot against the cold wind. The column's movement did not stop for a second, resembling the slow flow of a freezing river. The snow crunched beneath thousands of feet, creating a steady soundscape for this massive winter trek. This sound became the main guide for those walking behind, through the snowflakes whipping into their faces. The wind picked up loose snow from the ground, swirling it into small white eddies around the people walking. The dense column stretched for many miles, cutting through the snow-white plain like a long, dark streak. Maintaining the set direction required constant concentration from those at the very front of the line. The trees along the route stood completely bare, their branches covered with a thick layer of transparent ice. These frozen giants offered no shelter from the wind, only creaking ominously under its strong gusts. The absence of natural barriers on the plain allowed the elements to unleash their full fury upon the exposed caravan. The people tried to walk closer together, creating minimal protection from the freezing wind blowing from the side. Mother kept her formation steady, not allowing the elements to disrupt the even rhythm of their collective advance. Fatigue accumulated with every mile traveled, making their legs heavy and sluggish. Their bodies expended a colossal amount of energy simply to maintain a basic body temperature in the extreme cold. Food was extremely scarce, and it could not fully replenish the energy lost on this difficult route. People relied solely on their inner reserves and an immense will to live. The woman's mind was completely focused on a single goal: the safe completion of this stage. Icy flakes settled on their eyebrows and hair, turning the people into white, moving statues. They had to shake off the snow on the move, without breaking the general rhythm of the column stretching across the plain. Any unnecessary movement drained precious energy that had to be conserved for the next kilometers of the journey. The harsh conditions demanded maximum energy conservation in every action and every step. This rule of survival was quickly and unquestioningly adopted by all participants in the long winter trek. The first day of this leg of the journey revealed the utter lack of mercy on the part of the surrounding winter landscape. The endless white wasteland imposed its ruthless laws, demanding absolute submission to the elements. Staying warm remained the most important and difficult task in this step, open to all the winds. I'd be very interested to hear your perspective on this era and the conditions under which entire people survived. What do you think about the strength of spirit in such circumstances? Write about it in the comments and be sure to subscribe to the channel. The secret, passed down from generation to generation, is hidden in the harsh rhythm of this grueling journey. The caravan guards established a strict schedule that categorically prohibited prolonged stops in one place. Rest stops were strictly limited to exactly 15 minutes, regardless of weather conditions. In this short time, people had to catch their breath before the next long stretch. The woman used these precious moments to wrap her family more tightly in extra layers of cloth. They had to gauge the time solely by their internal sensations and the commands of the armed guards. The guards, equipped with watches, closely monitored compliance with the intervals, allowing no delays whatsoever. As soon as the column stopped, people tried to find at least a little shelter from the biting wind. Many remained standing, afraid to sit on the rock-hard, frozen ground. Frozen muscles might simply prevent a person from getting up after sitting on the ice for a long time. These moments of rest did not bring true relief, as the frost began to bite even more fiercely. Without active movement, bodies cooled rapidly, giving up their last bits of warmth to the cold surrounding air. People shifted from foot to foot, trying to keep the blood circulating in their frozen limbs. A woman rubbed her loved one's shoulders, getting the blood flowing beneath their thin woolen capes. 15 minutes seemed both an instant and an eternity in this icy trap. The guards announced the end of the rest stop with loud commands, forcing the caravan to start moving again. The first step after a stop was always the hardest, requiring them to overcome the stiffness in their joints. The column slowly picked up speed, returning to its saving, monotonous walking rhythm. Gradually, the muscles warmed up, and walking became a little easier than standing in the biting wind. This brutal cycle of stops and movement continued unceasingly throughout the entire route. During the stops, the wind seemed even fiercer, mercilessly stripping the last remnants of warmth from the weary travelers. The lack of natural shelter made every pause a true test of strength and endurance. People huddled together in tight groups, trying to warm each other with their breath and body heat. Mother always stood on the windward side, shielding her family from the strongest gusts. Her back bore the brunt of the icy elements during these brief respites. Lifting those who had dared to sit down off the ground required the help of their fellow sufferers. Clothes instantly froze to the icy crust covering the rocks and tough grass on the plain. Freeing oneself from this icy captivity took precious seconds away from the time allotted for setting out. Discipline within the groups allowed them to quickly regroup and resume their march without falling behind the column. Mutual aid became the very invisible mechanism that sustained the life of the entire caravan. The constant alternation of walking and short stops disrupted the usual perception of the passage of time. The hours merged into a single endless process of traversing the landscape and battling the biting cold. The psychological strain of this rhythm was comparable to the incredible physical exhaustion. We had to force ourselves to welcome the end of a rest, since it was movement that kept us alive in the freezing cold. This paradox became the main rule of survival during a winter trek across open terrain. The sky remained an impartial witness to this endless struggle of man against merciless nature. Gray clouds continued to shower fine icy flakes, complicating an already arduous journey. Brief respites ended as suddenly as they began, spurred on by the guards' shouts. The men once again brushed the snow from their bodies and immersed themselves in the saving rhythm of their steady march. Do you think such strict discipline could help a modern person in an extreme situation? In the next chapter, you will learn why approaching the Cumberland River became the most insurmountable obstacle. What you have never seen is a frozen river in the depths of a harsh winter. The Cumberland did not greet the settlers with a raging torrent, but with a solid shell of thick, dark ice. Huge ice hummocks rose chaotically above the surface, creating a labyrinth of jagged boulders. The wind swept unhindered across the open riverbed, gathering speed to incredible speeds and knocking people off their feet. The Cherokee woman carefully assessed every step, choosing the safest path among the slippery, uneven surface. She knew that beneath this layer of ice lay a powerful force of nature, ready to swallow any unwary traveler. The river's surface resembled a frozen battlefield of the elements, where massive ice floes had piled up on top of one another. Moving across this slippery terrain required the utmost caution and constant balancing. The moccasins offered virtually no traction on the smooth ice, forcing people to move in small shuffling steps. A single misstep could lead to a fall onto the sharp edges of the frozen ice ridges. The mother held her family members tightly, helping them navigate the most dangerous sections of the crossing. Her hands trembled from the cold, but her grip remained firm and reliable. The loud cracking of ice beneath the feet of thousands of people echoed throughout the wide river valley. This terrifying sound reminded the travelers that deep, dark water lay hidden beneath the thick shell. Despite the severe frost, the ice was in constant motion, creating new cracks and fissures. People instinctively froze whenever another hollow thud rang out right beneath their feet. Each such moment seemed like an eternity, filled with fear of the invisible abyss. People had to bypass the most suspicious areas, lengthening their route across open ground. The wind on the river met no obstacles, unleashing its full force on the slowly moving column. The settlers' clothing was too thin for such extreme conditions and quickly became soaked through. The frost bit at exposed skin, turning every movement into a true test of will. The group continued forward despite their growing fatigue and the piercing cold. Every step across Cumberland took twice as much effort as moving across a snow-covered plain. The constant tension in their leg muscles to maintain balance led to rapid physical exhaustion. The people moved in single file, stepping precisely in the tracks of those who had already successfully navigated the difficult stretch. This technique minimized risks and allowed them to maintain their pace even on the slippery ice. Weakened travelers leaned on homemade walking sticks, which often slipped off the icy surface. The caravan resembled a huge dark snake, slowly crawling across the white, frozen surface of the river. The wind swept snow across the ice, covering the slippery sections with a thin layer of deceptive, loose snow. This white veil concealed dangerous cracks, making the crossing even more unpredictable and difficult. Experienced guides scrutinized the surface structure, trying to anticipate hidden dangers. The slightest mistake in choosing a direction could end in tragedy for the entire group. Her eyes watered from the constant strain and the sharp gusts of cold air carrying icy dust. The woman kept squinting, trying to make out a safe route through the raging snowstorm. Her intuition and vast experience allowed her to unerringly determine the strength of the ice beneath their feet. She could feel the ice vibrating and knew where it might give way under the weight of people. Her leadership helped maintain order and prevent panic among the exhausted migrants. The journey across the river seemed endless due to their slow pace and constant maneuvering. The opposite bank was visible through the blizzard only as a blurred, dark strip of bare winter trees. The guards also dismounted, carefully leading their horses by the reins across the slippery riverbed. The animals' hooves slipped, and the horses whinnied in fear, sensing the instability of the ground beneath them. The soldiers were forced to exercise rare patience so as not to lose their horses in this icy desert. In those hours on the ice, absolute equality prevailed for all in the face of mighty nature. The elements made no distinctions, testing the endurance of every person on this river equally. Rich and poor, guards and captives, all were equally vulnerable in the face of the deadly cold. Social status vanished, giving way to the simple desire to survive and reach the shore. The only value on this ice was mutual aid and the willingness to lend a hand to one's neighbor. Reaching the opposite bank was a real relief for the entire stretched-out column. Solid ground beneath their feet restored confidence in their movements and allowed them to pick up the pace slightly. The settlers literally clawed their way up the riverbank, trying to leave the dangerous open space as quickly as possible. Many fell to their knees, unable to contain their emotions after such a perilous crossing. Everyone's heart was filled with quiet gratitude for another day lived. The Cumberland River lay behind them, covered in snow and echoing with the sound of thousands of cautious footsteps. This natural barrier had been successfully crossed thanks to their utmost unity and incredible perseverance. New trials lay ahead, but this icy crossing would forever remain in their memory as a symbol of resilience. Looking back, they saw only an endless white haze that obscured their recent path. If you're interested in stories about overcoming such massive natural obstacles, please like this post. The hidden truth that everyone keeps quiet about lies in the true conditions of nighttime treks across these lands. As the winter sun set, the air temperature began to plummet rapidly, dropping below -20 degrees. Daylight quickly gave way to thick twilight, blurring the boundaries between the gray sky and the plain. The surrounding world began to rapidly change its contours, becoming alien and hostile. The silence of the winter twilight weighed heavily on people's minds, making them feel like tiny grains of sand. It was becoming increasingly difficult to find their way, and people had to rely solely on the silhouettes of those walking ahead. The Cherokee mother confidently led the way through the deepening darkness without slowing down from the pace set by the guards. Her steps were firm, even though every inch of ground held the danger of tripping or falling into a pit. She knew that any delay at the front of the column would inevitably lead to chaos at the very back. Her responsibility to her family and her people gave her the strength to keep moving forward. The night wilderness enveloped the caravan in a thick veil, depriving the travelers of their last visual landmarks. The winter stars had vanished behind dense clouds, providing not the slightest source of natural light. The wind seemed even more fierce in the darkness. Its howling drowned out the creaking footsteps of thousands of people. The sound resembled moans and cries, which brought even greater melancholy to the exhausted travelers. It seemed as though the earth itself was protesting against this endless and agonizing march. The cold penetrated their clothes more quickly, taking advantage of the absence of even the faintest warmth from the daytime sun. Movement had become a purely mechanical process, driven solely by the instinct for self-preservation. Their legs moved of their own accord, obeying habit and the iron discipline forged over long weeks on the road. Body heat quickly dissipated, leaving behind only a sensation of numbness and emptiness. The people had turned into shadows, gliding silently through the thick night mist. People walked close together, trying not to break formation in the pitch-black night. Losing contact with the person ahead meant the risk of straying from the path and being left alone with the storm. The woman held tightly onto the fabric of her loved one's clothes, monitoring their every movement in the darkness. She could feel the beating of their hearts and the warmth of their breath, which helped her not to lose hope. In this darkness, the only connection to reality was the physical presence of a loved one nearby. Mutual trust became their only compass in this endless, black, icy desert. The column moved forward like a single organism, driven by the invisible force of collective perseverance. Each person was a link in one long chain, and the breaking of any link could be fatal. Mutual aid was evident in every gesture, in every instance of helping a neighbor who had stumbled. No one complained, realizing that words would only drain the last bits of vital energy. The frosty air burned their lungs with every deep breath, forcing them to breathe shallowly and frequently. The moisture from their breath froze instantly on the scarves covering their faces, turning into a hard, icy crust. This crust scratched the skin, but removing the protection was impossible due to the risk of instant frostbite. People's faces had turned into masks of frost and ice, hiding their true emotions and suffering. Even blinking caused pain, as their eyelashes constantly stuck together from frozen tears. People endured these hardships, knowing that any compromise with the cold would lead to irreparable consequences. Patience became the main weapon in the arsenal of these indomitable travelers of the night steppe. They knew that the night would not last forever, and this knowledge helped them keep moving forward. Every obstacle overcome in the darkness was a small victory over the circumstances. The Cherokee spirit proved stronger than the harshest frost that nature had unleashed upon them. The silence of the night march was broken only by the monotonous crunch of frozen snow beneath hundreds of moccasins. Conversation ceased entirely, as speaking consumed precious energy and heat. Every effort was directed solely at moving their feet and maintaining the column's pace. The people had learned to understand one another without words, by the slightest movement of a shoulder or a change in the rhythm of a step. Their common goal united them more strongly than any orders or threats from the guards. Their minds focused on a single point in space directly ahead, ignoring the surrounding darkness. This trance helped them cope with the psychological pressure of the bleak and cold winter night. Time lost its usual sense of measurement, turning into an endless succession of monotonous movements. Every mile traveled seemed like an eternity, bringing no change to the surrounding landscape. The travelers felt trapped in an endless tunnel of snow and darkness. The mandatory 15-minute stops in the darkness felt like a plunge into even deeper cold. The body instantly began to stiffen as soon as the active flow of blood ceased. The lack of visual confirmation of progress made it difficult to maintain high morale. However, the caravan did not stop, continuing on its way in defiance of all laws of physics and logic. This will to live was stronger than any natural factors or physical exhaustion. Night had fully set in, transforming the world around them into a hostile and unwelcoming environment. The ceaseless march remained the only source of warmth for the exhausted and frozen people. This survival strategy proved its effectiveness with every minute they spent in the cold. Every new step was an act of defiance against the fate that had condemned them to this ordeal. Could modern people endure such a pace in the complete absence of light? In the next chapter, you will learn how the travelers coped with deep snow without special equipment. Deep snow required a special walking technique to conserve their rapidly dwindling strength. The men at the very front of the column trampled a narrow trench, compacting the loose snow with their footsteps. The rest of the group strictly followed this path, trying to step exactly in the footsteps of those ahead. This unspoken coordination allowed the entire long, stretched-out line to maintain a steady pace. The woman placed her feet precisely in the pre-made indentations, keeping a smooth and confident walking rhythm. Lifting her knees high took a lot of energy, so the well-trodden path was a real lifesaver. The snow was waist-deep in places, making it nearly impossible to move on one's own. The vanguard of the column changed regularly, as breaking trail through virgin snow was an extremely difficult task. People took turns without unnecessary commands, understanding the importance of the continuity of this complex process. Mutual aid was evident in every such silent action for the benefit of the entire caravan. Traditional moccasins, despite the lack of a stiff sole, were perfectly suited for walking on soft snow. They allowed the foot to feel the terrain and adapt to the unevenness of the narrow, well-trodden path. To insulate the footwear, additional layers of dry grass or scraps of old woolen fabric were used. These simple devices created an air pocket that provided some protection for the feet against severe freezing. Every detail of the equipment was thought out down to the smallest detail, taking into account the experience of previous winter camps. The human body adapts in an amazing way to prolonged, monotonous physical exertion in the cold. After several hours of continuous walking, a stage of automatic movement set in when the muscles worked independently of one's will. The main task was to maintain a steady breathing rhythm and keep a consistent distance from the person walking ahead. Sudden bursts of speed or unplanned stops disrupted the overall pace and led to a rapid loss of endurance. Rhythm became synonymous with safety throughout this snowy section of the route. The frosty mist from the breath of thousands of people hung over the trail as a thick, pale haze. This haze indicated the direction of travel better than any other landmarks in the nighttime step. The snow at the edges of the trail formed high, dense ridges that protected the lower body from the crosswind. The caravan moved within this man-made snow corridor, carved out by the incredible efforts of the leaders. Nature yielded to human perseverance, step by step surrendering its white, snow-covered territories. This coordinated system of moving in single file became a true marvel of coordination among a vast number of people. The harsh natural conditions dictated their own strict rules, but the travelers found ways to turn them to their advantage. Every obstacle overcome strengthened the group's confidence in the correctness of their chosen marching strategy. The desolate night gradually receded behind them, thanks to the steady and relentless advance of the caravan. Conserving energy through proper walking technique was the key to the success of this winter crossing. What the archives conceal concerns the incredible efforts expended in organizing rare nighttime stops. The guards announced another 15-minute stop right in the middle of an open, windswept expanse. It was physically impossible to build a proper fire in such conditions due to the lack of dry wood and the fierce wind. People were forced to keep warm solely with the heat of their own bodies, huddling tightly together in a living circle. A mother covered her family with the wide edge of a thick shawl, creating a tiny air pocket for thermal insulation. Every exhalation in that cramped space helped them momentarily forget the icy breath of winter. The sensation of cold during these brief pauses intensified many times over, due to the sudden cessation of muscle activity. Their clothes, damp from the long journey, began to cool rapidly, turning into a veritable icy shell on their bodies. The shivering became uncontrollable and painful, as the exhausted body tried to generate at least a little extra heat. Psychologically, it was extremely difficult to force oneself to simply stand still when the icy wind literally pierced through every fold of fabric. Waiting for the signal to start moving turned into an exhausting test of the endurance of the entire human nervous system. Guards with torches constantly patrolled the perimeter, strictly ensuring that no one lingered on the cold ground. The light from the fire revealed, from the thick darkness, the weary faces of people covered in a thick layer of frost. These torches remained the only source of heat and light, but the settlers were strictly forbidden to approach them. The travelers could only watch the dancing tongues of flame from afar, trying to warm themselves with the power of their own imagination. Even such a faint illusion of warmth helped them endure those agonizing 15 minutes in the open wind. The brief moments of relative calm flew by alarmingly quickly, and a new loud shout would once again rouse everyone to their feet. They had to muster immense physical strength to start moving again, overcoming the stiffness of their frozen clothing and the rigidity of their joints. The column covered the first few meters after such a stop in absolute silence, merely gritting their teeth in tension. Gradually, the life-giving warmth from the work of their muscles returned, slowly melting the thin crusts of ice on their heavy woolen cloaks. The familiar rhythm of life was restored, drawing people back into the endless process of monotonous walking through deep snow. Have you ever wondered how valuable a single breather can be in such a critical situation? These pauses, despite their harshness, gave people an important opportunity to simply catch their breath and adjust their disheveled gear. Completely eliminating stops would have led to immediate exhaustion, while the slightest delay would have meant certain freezing for everyone. The optimal balance was found through trial and error and was observed with iron discipline by all participants in this arduous trek. In the next chapter, you will learn how the guards controlled the massive column amid a sudden snowstorm. The caravan guards constantly moved along the entire length of the stretched-out column on horseback, their dark silhouettes rising against the backdrop of the white snow. Their animals struggled with great difficulty through the high snowdrifts, breathing heavily and very frequently in the frosty air. The distance between the patrols allowed them to reliably monitor the entire perimeter of the march, even in conditions of extremely poor visibility. Discipline within the groups was maintained not so much by the guards' stern shouts, as by a shared understanding of the harsh reality of the situation. The Cherokee woman focused all her attention solely on maintaining a steady pace, trying to completely ignore the horsemen riding past. The existing rules for forming the column required everyone to move strictly along the already established track, without deviating a single step to the side. Any attempts to stray beyond the main path were immediately stopped, as this disrupted the set pace of the massive caravan. The guards were regularly relieved at fresh posts to avoid hypothermia, while the travelers themselves walked for long hours without any relief. This obvious inequality of conditions was accepted by the people as an inevitable fact, causing no unnecessary arguments during these difficult pre-dawn hours. The main goal for everyone remained simply to survive this frosty night, leaving as many snow-covered and dangerous miles behind as possible. The dim lanterns of the guards swayed rhythmically in time with the heavy footsteps of the horses, casting bizarre and frightening shadows on the white snow. These yellow patches of light served as additional beacons for those who were beginning to lose concentration and fall out of step. In the pitch darkness, the true scale of the column was mind-boggling, transforming thousands of people into a single, endless, living river. Moving such a colossal mass of people in winter required the guides to coordinate all available forces with the utmost precision. Every person in the ranks clearly understood their personal responsibility to the comrades walking beside them on this unbearable journey. The isolation of individual groups within the caravan was only intensified by the constant howl of the ceaseless steppe wind. People could communicate only with those within arm's reach, striving to conserve their meager strength as much as possible. The guards remained merely an external irritant, regulating only the general mechanics of this massive process. True control over the entire situation lay within the people themselves and in their iron will to reach the very end. The woman confidently led her family forward, becoming their chief protector and reliable support in this icy darkness. The dark silhouettes of the armed guards gradually dissolved into the snowy haze as soon as another fierce blizzard began. At such moments, the mounted guard's control became nothing more than an empty formality in the face of the raging winter wilderness. The chief and most severe overseer here was the 20-degree frost itself, which mercilessly punished any lapse. The caravan continued its relentless advance deep into the plain, covering kilometer after kilometer of deep, sticky snow. Sincere mutual support within small family groups helped people endure this grueling pace until the long-awaited dawn. Could you maintain the same will to live while under surveillance in an icy desert? During the darkest and coldest hours of the night, ancient knowledge of survival in the winter forest came to their aid. Traditional Cherokee culture has always entailed a deep respect for nature and the ability to read its hidden signs. People knew how to breathe in the frosty air properly, lightly covering their mouths and noses with the edge of a warm cloth. They used special, gentle rubbing techniques on exposed skin to maintain constant blood circulation. My mother constantly kept an eye on her loved ones, discreetly applying these warming techniques on the go. The experience of past generations suggested how to properly layer thin clothing to create thermal insulation. Even a small air gap between the layers protected against immediate freezing in the wind. Knowledge of the local climate's characteristics helped them mentally prepare for the most drastic drops in temperature. Their minds focused on images of a warm home, distracting them from the icy reality around them. Inner concentration allowed them to block out the physical sensations of the biting cold at critical moments. Silent resilience was ingrained in the very character of these incredibly hardy and strong people. They did not complain about their fate, directing all their energy toward overcoming the difficulties that arose. The woman drew strength from the awareness of her responsibility to continue the ancient lineage in new lands. Her inner core would not allow her to give up, even when her muscles refused to obey her mind's commands. This unshakable resolve spread to those around her, filling them with confidence in a favorable outcome. The traditional walking rhythms, developed over centuries, were ideally suited for long journeys. The movements were smooth and economical, without wasting energy on balancing or taking wide strides. People merged with nature, not fighting against it, but adapting to its harshest winter demands. A deep understanding of their physical limits allowed them to avoid crossing the line beyond which exhaustion set in. The wisdom of their ancestors proved more reliable than any equipment in this endless nighttime battle against the cold. These invisible threads of centuries-old traditions bound generations together, passing on the most vital survival skills. Cultural heritage helped preserve a sense of spirit in conditions that seemed utterly hopeless. The inner resilience of the people was evident in every measured step across this frozen plain. The deep night gradually began to yield, giving way to the inexorable passage of time. The knowledge of the past built a reliable bridge to the future across the harshest winter of the 19th century. The snowstorm, which had raged mercilessly all through the long night, began to gradually subside by early morning. The gusts of icy wind grew noticeably weaker, allowing the weary travelers to straighten their shoulders a little. The thick veil of dark clouds began to dissipate, revealing the dim glow of the setting winter moon. Visibility improved significantly, revealing the endless expanse of the snow-covered valley far ahead of the caravan. The woman took a deep breath, feeling the long-awaited easing of the frosty pressure in the morning air. The end of the snowfall had changed the texture of the surface. making the snow denser and easier to walk on. The trail no longer got instantly covered by fresh snow, which made things easier for those at the back of the column. The caravan's pace increased slightly, restoring the people's hope for a swift completion of the stage. The landscape that opened up, though still completely white, ceased to be an aggressive and unpredictable environment. Nature seemed to have paused, giving the travelers a chance to regroup their meager strength. The outlines of the hills on the horizon became clear and distinct in the pale light of the fading night sky. These landmarks helped the brain assess the distance traveled and plan further efforts. The realization that the darkest and coldest part of the night had been successfully weathered lifted everyone's spirits. People began to move more freely, having shed the constant fear of getting lost in the blizzard. The caravan remained intact, proving the incredible effectiveness of collective perseverance and discipline. The frosty air was still bitingly cold, but the absence of wind made it bearable. The frost on their clothes had stopped growing, turning into a shiny, dry crust that reflected the moonlight. The silence was filled with the familiar sound of synchronized footsteps. No longer drowned out by the howl of the fierce blizzard, the woman silently thanked the elements for the respite granted in this grueling struggle. Her steps gained a new firmness, fueled by the nearness of the end of the most difficult stretch of the journey. Surviving this terrible night storm became a true turning point for the entire winter migration. The elements tested the people's absolute resilience, demanding the full expenditure of all their physical and mental reserves. Nature acknowledged its defeat in the face of the unyielding will of these incredibly resilient travelers. The hardest part of this particular route was now permanently behind them, buried in deep snow. A long journey lay ahead, but their confidence in their own strength after that night had become unshakable. The first timid rays of the cold winter sun began to break through the horizon, painting the snow in light hues. Dawn brought with it long-awaited visual relief, revealing the clear contours of the surrounding landscape. The air temperature remained dangerously low, but the daylight miraculously gave people new strength. The outlines of the snow-covered valleys ahead became clear landmarks for the weary but unbroken travelers. The nameless Cherokee mother continued her steady pace, her gaze fixed on the brightening morning sky. The end of the night signified a symbolic victory over the fears and physical frailty of the human body. The grueling marathon in the darkness had ended, leaving behind only fatigue and a sense of pride in their resilience. Every kilometer traversed in this icy desert had been paid for with an incredible strain on their mental fortitude. The mechanical movement gradually gave way to a conscious stride along the sunlit road. The column stretched out to its full length, demonstrating the scale of the incredible journey accomplished overnight. That icy night became a symbol of unprecedented resilience and unconditional devotion to her family. The main outcome of the march was the preservation of the lives of those for whom the woman endured these inhuman hardships. Fulfilling her maternal and ancestral duty gave meaning to every painful step in the freezing cold. The future generation was given a chance at life thanks to the quiet but unbreakable self-sacrifice of their ancestors. This feat required no grand words. It was proven by deeds in the silence of the frozen American steppe. History has preserved only the very fact of this most difficult river crossing in the harshest February frosts. The names of most of the heroes remain unrecorded in the pages of official government documents. However, their legacy lives on in the traditions and memory of a people who have preserved their identity. That particular winter shaped the character of a nation capable of withstanding any blows of unforeseen fate. The memory of these nameless heroines remains a cornerstone in the foundation of historical self-awareness. Their unyielding fortitude and determination became an example for many subsequent generations of settlers. The path they traversed is forever inscribed in the vast annals of extraordinary human courage and endurance. Sunlight finally flooded the white plain, opening the way to a new, albeit difficult, tomorrow. The most terrifying stage had been overcome, leaving behind the river's icy shell and the piercing night wind. Life went on, carrying within it the strength of those who refused to give in the face of the deadly winter cold. What do you think of this historical story about incredible resilience and the will to live in harsh natural conditions? Be sure to subscribe to our channel to dive into exciting historical eras in our upcoming videos.